We've had a great weekend, folks, and having a great start to the week. And thank you for keeping me company and allowing me to keep you motivated with some great conversations with fabulous guests. And the show that you're listening to is The Urban Cube. It's a show that celebrates arts and lifestyle with trailblazing creatives, and in particular a lot of my guests are from the Muslim community, mashallah, not just local but also national as well. And today I've got a fabulous guest who's joining us all the way from Bradford this morning, and we're going to be having a conversation around puppets. Yes, puppets. I've never had a guest or a show around puppet making on Inspire FM. So today it's really going to be fascinating to hear from my guest on how they're using puppets to help evoke stories from South Asian heritage, and just using this theme of or tool of puppets to engage audiences. So this is definitely going to be a unique conversation I'm going to be having with my guest. As always, if you've got any questions that you'd like to ask around the topic of South Asian stories and how we can share our heritage through different means of creativity, please feel free to do so on 07779481822. Now, who is my guest? Well, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined today by a powerful Bradford-based lyricist, poet and theatre maker and community arts facilitator. She works across Urdu, Punjabi, Bahari and English, and her debut bilingual theatre piece, Kube, is reimagining a classic Sufi story through poetry, live song and performance. Now, Kausar's work bridges cultures, languages and generations, and she's been at the heart of creative projects with the South Asian Arts UK and Beat D25, which is Bradford 25 City of Culture. It's an absolute pleasure to have her joining us today on the show to talk about this extraordinary community theatre piece which she created. It's bilingual, and it's the first bilingual piece of community theatre, and she formed it in 2021 called Kube. Kube. I think I've said that right. Kube. If anybody can pronounce that correctly, I'd love to hear your pronunciation, but Kausar will tell us how to pronounce that correctly. It basically retells a well-known Sufi song story from Sayyidul Muluk using puppet theatre, live song and performance. And as I've already mentioned, Kausar has worked for South Asian Arts UK based in Leeds as their community and creative engagement officer, as well as undertaking a number of freelance roles. And it's an absolute treat to have Kausar joining us this morning. Assalamu alaikum, Kausar.
Walaikum salam.
How are you this morning?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. How is Bradford looking like this morning? And tell us where you're sat.
I am sat in my living room. Bradford is looking very sunny, just like it was yesterday. Really nice weather. I think it was like 23 degrees yesterday. So yeah, it looks like it's going to be another really lovely day.
And I get very excited when I speak to guests all the way from Bradford, because Bradford feels like home. It's very kind of similar in certain contexts to Luton. But there's so much exciting stuff happening in Bradford. Congratulations with achieving Bradford City of Culture. What's been happening across the weekend in Bradford? I heard there was a lot of foam in the city centre.
Yeah, I missed that. Lots of colourful foam. And I've seen the videos online and it's been amazing. And a couple of weeks before that, there was the Zion City, which was a large-scale puppet theatre piece in the city centre with a massive 4-metre tall puppet that had amazing kind of movement. So we've got something going on every weekend. It's almost impossible to keep up with all the things that are going on during the city culture all over the district.
You know what? I'm super envious. I am so envious of what's happening in Bradford. It's really exciting and it's just wonderful to see it as well. And the fact that the whole city is embracing all this different type of creativity. What's been your favourite so far?
I've enjoyed lots of different things. I've been involved in lots of projects. There's a really brilliant exhibition at the Salts Mill nearby by Anne Hamilton, she's a world famous international kind of visual artist. There's been lots of theatre, there's been lots of open mic, there's been like really, really small scale community kind of art stuff and really big scale things. And they've all been absolutely amazing. So there's been Bradford Festival just over the weekend, the previous weekend. And there's something called a Beacon, which is a touring venue. So they've had that out going to different parks. So taking theatre and sort of arts closer to people where they are in their locations. And so we had the Summer of Sounds last weekend, which is all South Asian urban kind of music, which was a whole weekend of music at the Beacon in Cliff Castle. So there's been so many things. It's hard to name what's been enjoyable. Obviously, the launch in January, called The Rise, which I sang in the choir. That was an amazing spectacle with like 20,000 people attending. That was in January, and that was a massive sort of launch event. And that seems like a million years ago because so much has happened since then.
So much. What's it going to be like when this ends? What's going to happen after?
I think there's going to be like, when big performers perform on massive stages and they have an adrenaline kind of rush and then there's a come down. I think there's going to need to be some like kind of sessions helping all the creatives sort of kind of cope with what the after of 2025 is. And I'm not sure what that's going to be like. It's going to feel a little bit like I think empty in a sense. There'll be still things going on because there's obviously lots of creative things that have happened that are going to have some legacy, but the amount of stuff happening at the moment is so constant every day. It sort of absorbs your life, especially if you're working in the sector, which I am. So we've been living and breathing this for a good few years all the time. So it's going to feel like something's missing. So we're going to need we're all going to have get together and sort of support each other through the kind of 2026 period and see what evolves after that.
And I'm sure a lot will evolve because you can't just like start something as magnificent as this and then just leave the city and not fuel any more projects. I'm sure loads is going to happen. And it's been wonderful for Bradford because it's actually put it under the spotlight for all. So much positivity and a great place for anybody who's wanting to take their children, find somewhere to go. Then you know what, head over to Bradford because there's loads happening, and you are definitely making things happen, Kausar, especially with this wonderful piece that you're currently touring with called Kube, and you're leading some workshops as well around it. Tell us, what is Kube and have I pronounced it correctly?
So Kugi is like the colloquial like word in kind of Punjabi local dialect for dove, which in Urdu would be fakhta. So that Kugi is the right pronunciation, and so it means dove. And it is a story, a very small story, and a song from the Saif al-Muluk, which I heard as a child. I didn't really know the full meaning when I was a child, but it's one of the first bits of kind of Sufi kalam or song. I didn't know it was Sufi music at the time, that I will have heard when I was a child. And I really fell in love with the story of the dove. And it's called, normally the story is known as Fakhtan Shikari.
And what does that mean?
So it means the dove and the hunter and the shikari. It's a story of hope. It's a story of being in a situation where the dove finds herself. I don't want to be spoiler. I'm sure many of your audience sort of, if they're familiar with Saif al-Muluk, which is a really popular kind of Sufi kind of folk story, will know the story anyway. But of the Fakhtan Shikari, where the dove finds herself in a really difficult situation where she has a hunter that has taken aim at her, and also a hawk that is watching her if she flies to capture her. So she has she's stuck between two kind of enemies that she has no way of escaping, and finds herself in a really impossible situation. I won't. She does manage to survive. I mean, it's a bit of a spoiler there, but it's about faith and hope, and sometimes when things seem impossible. And I think Mia Sab's kind of message in this particular poem, not throughout the whole Saif al-Muluk, there's many different kind of lessons from Saif al-Muluk, but about the fact that if God wants to, or the universe wants to create a solution, it will create one for you, even though it may seem impossible, and even if kind of logic tells you that all the odds are stacked against your face tells you that miracles can happen. So I think it's that kind of thing that's quite a universal message and really needed at the moment due to just the current global kind of things that are going on, which can lead people to kind of despair when they can't see any solution.
It sounds very profound and very poignant and very interesting. And the reason why I find this so interesting and fascinating is like you've stepped back in history to revive a story, and you're using a Punjab, is it performed in Punjabi, and a puppet show too? How were you able to incorporate all these elements into this piece, and why did you choose puppeteering?
I think the story itself of the dove and the shikari sort of lends itself to puppetry. And originally, it was just the particular story that I wanted to pass on because I heard this story, obviously, and we were an audio generation. We listened to cassettes. We didn't have as much visual input. But the younger generation doesn't have the language skills. My children don't have the language skills to understand that, and they're not particularly big fans of Alam Lohar's voice. So they were not going to listen to that kind of story or get that kind of heritage and folklore, and I wanted to pass that on to them. So I decided that I would try and turn this into kind of a visual piece. Originally it was just supposed to be about the story itself, but then it turned into a story about my journey and my connection with the Saif al-Muluk and this particular story. And it tells the story of Alam Lohar, who I'm a massive fan of, and of kind of Mia Muhammad Baksh and the Saif al-Muluk. So it's told in a toy puppet theatre, and it's because I'd actually watched a bit of puppet theatre with my children when they were younger, and I'd seen one particular piece that I really loved. And the director of that piece lived locally, and I was managed to get in touch with her, but I was also kind of involved with an organization that does some street theatre and puppetry. And I thought that would be a really good way to kind of visually retell the story. And because the story is really important to me in my language, which is not Punjabi, which is what I thought it was for a long time before I realized that there's quite a big difference between Punjabi and Pahari or Mirpuri, what you would call the language that most of the Azad Kashmiri population in the UK speak. And we don't hear our mother tongue in songs, in poetry. And if you don't hear a language and you don't need to listen to it and understand it, you lose that language completely. Most of the language used in Pakistani films and drama and writing is Urdu or Punjabi. So it was really important for me to have a piece that was accessible to my children. It had to be in English, but I didn't want it to be completely in English because I wanted to keep Pahari in there so they would have some understanding and reference point. But I also wanted it to be accessible to my parents' generation, who have never actually had theatre made for them, who've never had theatre that is actually made specifically for their needs with stories that connect to them. There's obviously the Arts Council believe that people don't engage with, or certain communities don't engage, but you can't expect a community to engage with art that's not relevant to them and that's not accessible to them. So I made the show using puppetry for the visual needs of obviously the children of our generation who don't have the full language skills in Pahari. But I also wanted to open up the story of, the Kugi to English audiences. So and my parents' generation, I wanted it to be sort of a really inclusive piece, which it has been. So we've had lots of people who have visited or watched the show that are just English speaking, and they've enjoyed the show. And I've had people who just speak Bahari and don't speak any English. So you've had an audience that actually sat together who can't actually speak to each other, but could enjoy the same piece of theatre, which is really unique. And it started a lot of conversations between parents and children about their lives. And it's been really, it's just been amazing. And it was for me wanting to have something that I would make that I could pass some heritage on to my kids, but also something that would be relevant to my parents' generation, some of them who've never seen live theatre and some of them who've never been to the cinema.
It sounds extraordinary and something very much needed and so gracefully put together as well. And I just love the fact that you're not just looking at the younger generation, but also tapping into the older generation and their needs too. So tell me about the response from the older generation, our parents' generation. How did they respond to this piece?
The response has been amazing. I knew that it would connect with that generation, but I I think I underestimated the kind of feelings and emotions that it would trigger. So there is a couple of I've got a YouTube channel. There's not a lot on it. It's called Koogi, spelled KHOOGHI, and there are a couple of video clips from some news reports and from the previous performances. And there are some older people actually commenting in the video in Bahari, speaking their own mother tongue, and it's been really emotional. And I think for many different reasons, partly because it reminds them of their family or parents and people who've passed away who used to listen to the Saif al-Muluk. They remember kind of, one young lady spoke about the fact that her dad used to listen to that and he's passed away recently, and it reminded her of him. And then other people just with the familiarity and reminding them of the homeland that they left behind. So there's been a lot of tears of people singing along to the actual the Saif al-Muluk, the part of the Itin Karan Shikar Shikari, and the other few sort of songs that I sing in there, and some kalam that I read in there, and just the kind of feeling about I think the sorrow, some of it, the sorrow of the fact that our children are losing the language skills, and we haven't done as a community a huge amount of work to try and preserve our heritage. So I think there's mixed emotions and joy and sorrow. So the play is funny, but it's also got a lot of sort of like most Sufi text. It's got layers, and so kids think it's really funny because there's quite a lot of funny elements to it, but the adults see the sort of the other layer underneath it. So yeah, it's been amazing, and there has been a lot of tears. And I would like more Asian men to see it, because I think that they don't always get the access to enjoy creative arts, and it's seen as a thing not for men. But the few men that have come along, or their wives have dragged along, or families have persuaded to come along, have found it extremely emotional. And I had quite a few South Asian men crying, and I do see that as a mark of that I've done something really important.
It must have been quite a moment for you to realize the impact that this piece of creativity has had. Has it made you realize the value of spaces like this and why we need to nurture them more?
Yeah, I think I've always known the value of the spaces like this, and this is why the show is designed to be a community theatre piece. It's very low tech, so it can perform in theatre spaces, but it actually goes into community centres and into local communities, so they're not having to travel to unfamiliar spaces, and it's a small intimate audience. Sort of the capacity of the show is around 70 people, and so it's quite intimate, and it's in a setting where they're comfortable and usually familiar with. So I think I'm hoping, and I already think that it has made an impact on people within the sector. They've come along. I've noticed a lot more bilingual aspects in shows since I made Googie, and there was a lot of comments from people who have been in theatre for a while, and people who are in the arts and culture sector who are English. Have said, "Oh, I didn't know this could work. That a fully bilingual show could actually work." And so there's been a bit of, we could have done this, and people are starting to do it, and I feel like I've sort of started that.
That's absolutely amazing, and more power to you. And we need more of this. And I'm sure listeners in Luton or potentially Peterborough on Slam Radio and Sheffield Link FM, massive big salams to all our listeners from those stations, would be curious to know, when is it coming down to us all the way from Bradford? I believe you have a tour happening.
I do have a tour, but it is very local at the moment. It is West Yorkshire based. So I've just done a show last week in Dewsbury. There will be another one in a week after next in Batley. And if anyone's got families in those areas, if they let them know, and it's at the Batley Community Centre on the 20th. But there is obviously shows part of Bradford 2025 at the Beacon in Lister Park, in Manningham Park in Bradford on the 20th. It's on the Bradford 2025 website. So if people have family or friends living in Bradford and they're visiting, maybe they want to coordinate their visit and book tickets for the 7th of September. So I'm hoping that the tour this time, and we're looking at other dates in Leeds and in local kind of West Yorkshire area. And I do hope in the year to come, or over the next couple of years, that I will take the tour to anywhere where there is a sort of an Azad Kashmiri community, and where there is kind of a demand and people want to see the show. Because I do feel like it's really important, not only just because that story is relevant, but I think to give our youngsters kind of sort of inspiration and role modeling that they can also be theatre makers. I wasn't from the theatre sector, and say 5 to 6 years before this happened, I would not have ever imagined that I was going to create a play and that I would be performing in it and would be puppeteering. It's not that's not the background that I'm from. So this was really, I think, facilitated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I really do believe that, because of my passion to try and preserve my culture, my language and heritage, and pass that on. And because I believe when you have an intention to do something good, that you're supported by the universe and by God.
Mashallah. So tell us, Kausar, what were you doing prior to puppet making?
I was doing lots of different things. So I was a science teacher at secondary kind of level for about a decade, which I sort of came to an end in 2019. Just before the pandemic, I decided that my children were now old enough, and 10 years was enough as a science teacher, and I want to try and do something different. I've worked in the community sector, and I'm currently working as well. I currently work in the funding sector, which I've been part of for a while. And then also I was kind of a locally elected politician for a short time, which I won't go into too much detail about that. So I've done lots of different things. So I was completely new to kind of the theatrical sector. I didn't study drama at school. I was very much like many South Asian youngsters, a maths and science person. So it was quite a big change. I'd always been creative in the sense of the fact that I'd been writing poetry. I loved listening to poetry. I loved Alam Lohar. I loved Sufi Kalam, and I've always really loved poetry my whole life. So that probably is the creative side of me, I think. Yeah.
And anybody listening in who wants to switch careers, what would you say to them?
I would say, like, life is about experiencing things, and you learn by experiencing new things and doing things that you haven't done before, because it teaches you a lot about yourself. And the whole point of, I mean, I love the Sufi poetry, whether it's Alam Luhar or, you know, like it's Mia Muhammad Berkshire, whether it's like Rumi, who's like, you know, to know God is to know yourself better. And we can only know ourselves better by putting ourselves through different experiences to see different elements of ourselves. So I would say to anybody that there is no kind of age limit on learning. There is no age limit on new experiences. There is no age limit on those things. So anybody who wants to do anything should do it. You only have one life.
Indeed. And it's very, very inspiring. We've just had a message come through from brother Adil Rator, who says, Assalamu alaikum, sisters, very interesting program. And it's going to get even more interesting because Sister Kausar is going to be reciting some poetry for us after the break, inshallah. We're still up for that, aren't we, Kausar?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And brother Adil, I want to ask you, do you recall any of the work by Saiful Muluk or Mia Baksh or any of the poets that Sister Kausar has mentioned? We'd love to find out your thoughts on this and why you find this program interesting. It'd be really nice to hear as well. And we will be heading to a break in about a minute or so's time. Sister Kausar is still with us. She's joining us all the way from Bradford. She is a theatre maker and a poet, and she's produced this fabulous piece, puppeteering piece, a puppet show called Gugi. And it's a word that I've never come across. I've never heard of the word Gugi, so it's a new word for me. I thought I knew a lot of words, but I didn't know the word Gugi. So I've learned something new today. I am learning so much from you, Kausar, and I'm really delighted that you've joined us today. You speak Bahari, you speak Punjabi, also Urdu, and speak English as well. So what are we going to be hearing? Which language will you be performing for us after the break?
I think it's only fair to do a little bit of everything. So I'm going to try. I'm going to try and like read a poem from in Urdu and in Bahari and Punjabi, hopefully, and something in English. So yeah.
Amazing. I'm super looking forward to that. Folks, do not go away. We are going to be heading to a break. Straight after the break, I am joined by no other than Kausar Mukhtar, who is a poet and theatre maker. And she is the founder of this amazing piece of a puppet show called Kube. And we'll be hearing her perform 3 poetry pieces, one in Urdu, one in Bahari, one in English, and maybe Punjabi as well. Loads coming up. Do not go away. Grab yourself a cup of tea. Join me straight after the break when I'm having more conversations on the Urban Cube. Assalamu alaikum.
This program will continue after the break. Continue listening to Inspire FM. Inspire FM.
Inspire 105.1 FM.
इंस्पायर एफएम की वेबसाइट लुटन कम्युनिटी के लिए मालूमात का बेहतरीन जरिया विजिट कीजिए www.inspirefm.org।
Did you see that guy on TV?
What, that no comment guy?
Yeah, he was sick. What was his name?
I think it was Atiq Malik.
Yeah, Atiq Malik of Liberty Law Solicitors. Atiq Malik heads up the criminal law team at Liberty Law Solicitors, specialising in everything from serious crime down to road traffic offences.
To find out more or for a free telephone consultation, call 01582 459955.
Liberty Law, there when you need us most.
A large and elegant wedding and events venue in the heart of Luton, catering for up to 1,200 guests, with a 5-star food hygiene rating, plenty of parking, bridal suite, family rooms and prayer facilities. Crescent Hall's the perfect venue for your wedding, events, parties and conferences. We have some great offers for summer. Contact us to find out more. Call 01582 723386. Email bookings@crescenthall.co.uk or search for us online and social media. Crescent Hall Luton. Conditions apply.
هل تعلمون تحياتي عند الحضور إليكم أنا إن رأيت جماعة قلت السلام عليكم.
Don't miss the Pakistan Kashmir Culture Festival. Join us on the 23rd of August at Stockwood Park from 12 p.m. to 8 p.m. for a day of culture, food and family fun. Experience a stunning fashion show, an exciting horse display and a mesmerising Qawwali performance. This event is made possible by our amazing sponsors such as the Farley Community Group, Aegis, Kashmir Development Foundation, Tops Pizza and Hannah Solicitors. The fashion show is brought to you by Bliss Boutique, Shamsi Beauty and Noreen Makeup Studio. We would also like to thank our media partner Inspire FM, and our charity partner for this year's festival is Luton Food Bank. We cannot wait to see you there.
Gaza's severely malnourished children are dying agonizingly slowly, while their parents in the same situation watch on helplessly. Hundreds have died and thousands are on the brink of death. Gaza needs your help more than ever before. Families Relief are on the ground, ready to receive your support. To help us continue delivering vital aid, call 0114 365 4454 to donate or visit us at familiesrelief.org.uk. Don't delay. Make your donation today.
इंस्पायर एफएम की वेबसाइट पर मिलेगी आपको बेशुमार मालूमात, लुटन में होने वाले मुख्तलिफ प्रोग्राम, लुटन कम्युनिटी की खबरें और बहुत कुछ। विजिट कीजिए www.inspirefm.org।
Oh, Hillary, I was going to use newspaper display advertising.
But
it costs £10 per inch.
And that's too expensive.
Oh, indeed it is. I want to sell a 10-foot ladder.
Oh, Roger, invest in an ear-catching advertising campaign on this radio station instead. It's a great way to tell people about your products and service.
For details, click on inspirefm.org, then advertise. From the studios of Inspire FM, the time is now 10:30.
Catch a creative vibe on the Urban Cube with Sister Shemiza.
Good morning, good morning, good morning, and assalamu alaikum. It is 10:30, 11th of August, and you're listening to me, Shemiza, on the second half of the Urban Cube Show, and going all the way up to 11 o'clock this morning. Thank you for joining me. If you're listening in from Luton surrounding areas, Peterborough's Salam Radio, and Sheffield's Link FM. The show is the Urban Cube, and it's a show that celebrates arts and lifestyle with trailblazing creatives. And today is no exception. I'm joined by an absolutely wonderful guest all the way from Bradford this morning. I'm joined by no other than poet and theatre maker Kausar Mukhtar. Now, she is a Bradford-based lyricist, poet, theatre maker, and community arts facilitator. She works across Urdu, Punjabi, and Bahari and English, and her debut bilingual theatre piece, Kube, is reimagining a classic Sufi story through poetry, live song, and performance. And today I'm absolutely delighted to be in the company of Kausar, because she's been talking to us about this absolutely delightful piece of work, which has been inspired and retold. Kube is retold by it's a well-known Sufi song story from Saiful Muluk, and it's using puppet theatre, live song and performance to do so. And we heard about the journey behind that. Now, Kausar is with us, and you can actually catch her on Facebook Live, folks. You can actually see her on Facebook Live. We are on Facebook Live as well. So if you'd like to leave any comments or any questions, feel free to do so. Or if you'd like to WhatsApp us on 07779 481 822 to join in with the show. Look forward to hearing your comments as well. Kausar, thank you for staying with us. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
And it's been an absolute pleasure just listening into you and hearing your passion for the show, theatre, puppetry, and also making sure that there are spaces that celebrate our language and engage not just the younger generation, but the older generation as well. So thank you so much for doing that. Looking back at your journey, how's that been for you? Did you ever imagine from being a science teacher that you would end up in the heart of like puppet making?
No, I didn't. I don't actually make the puppets. I do have a director and a theatre and a set maker, a puppet maker, because that's not my expertise. But I do puppeteer in the show, so I perform as well as I puppeteer, which is how you use a puppet to sort of convey a story. Puppets are inanimate objects, and most people, when they imagine puppets, they imagine something like a sock and somebody putting their hand in them. So that is not the kind of puppetry. So I'd really like you to go and see the Facebook page of Kube. Has her own Facebook page as well. So puppet theatre is of many different types. Like you have flat puppets and 3D puppets, puppets with movement, and marionettes, which are the kind of dolls, and shadow puppetry. So puppetry is like a really large field, and they can be of any size. And puppetry, what puppetry is puppets are inanimate objects that you give life to through your voice and through your action and through your energy. So that's all a puppet is. That's the difference between a puppet and acting or a live performance, that they are inanimate objects that you bring life to in your storytelling. And they're really versatile because, like I said, they can be different sizes, and they can do things that, like as a human being, you can't do as well. So they're amazing. So yeah, it's not something that I really thought I'd do. I've always, like I said, written poetry, and I've been singing since a really young age, and Sufi Kalam I'm really passionate about. But I think it was the passion of passing that particular story, that particular poem, which had an influence on me in my life, to my children. I wanted to get that message across, and there really wasn't a way of doing that just through them listening, because they don't have the language skills. It had to be visual. And then I felt that it was really sort of important for me to create a piece, like I said, that parents, children, and that generation could connect to, because I think it's really important for me to do that at my age. If I'm not going to do theatre making and not show that value in culture, and this is a career, and this is an actual piece of work, and it's just as important as somebody doing medicine or law, then why will my children or our younger generation? They need people in all sectors, and they need to understand that all work is important. So when I think about my play and some of the reactions I've had from the people, and the tears and the kind of catharsis, that is just as healing as something medical, because they all have a really important role, and one thing I don't believe is more important than another. And I would really, I think it's so important that culture is just as valued as other kind of professions, especially within the South Asian community. I think that's obviously for good reason, for survival, for financial security and stability, choosing certain professions. I just wanted to encourage a lot more people to try and do this, I think.
And you sure are an inspiration, and it's just been fascinating hearing about your journey, and I don't think it's going to stop. I do feel you're going to be doing greater things. I mean, what are the plans for the future? What else do you intend to create and make?
I don't know yet. I leave God to inspire me, but I obviously want to take Kugi on tour more widely across all South Asian communities over the coming years, because it's only been seen by a very small amount of people. It's a lot of hard work to do a short 50-minute play. It's a huge amount of effort that goes into it, and I do think I'd like more people to connect with it and more people to have the kind of experience that the audiences who've already seen it have had. I have for the first time this year. I hadn't previously. It's just a show, and I've developed some workshops to again revive certain cultural aspects. I was maybe slightly different from my peers when I was at college. So even though I'm British born, and I've only spent very little time, probably 8 weeks in Pakistan, maybe a bit more than that in my whole entire life, I was always really connected through maybe the films that I watched and the songs that I listened to my own culture. So I wore a branda when I was at college. When I went to Pakistan the first time, sort of second time when I was 16, I brought a lot of coloured branda, and they're not as popular anymore. And I don't think people in Pakistan even wear them. So we've developed some branda making workshops. They're featured in my play. So
remember brande. And
I absolutely love them. So we've got some branda making workshops that go along the side of the show. We also have an Alam Lohar themed pop-up kind of cafe where we can listen to some vinyl records that I have that are Alam Lohar, but also there's a chimta workshop that goes with that, because that was the instrument
chimta is that metal.
Yeah. The metal
how would you describe it? I can't describe it. It's like metal.
It's like a metal pair of, it's like a long pair of metal tongs that
tongs,
you clink and you sort of click them together, and some of them have bells on, the ones I have, and honest to God, they sound amazing. And that's the only musical company Alam Lohar first had. They didn't have like a guitar and a full live band. He just had the chimta and him, and no PA system, just his voice. I mean, he's like, it's like he's my, like, I don't know, like a big hero for me. He's one of my favorite people in the world.
Does he know that you've been doing these workshops around him?
So Alam Lohar is not alive. Whenever I say Alam Lohar, everyone gets confused because they automatically think of Arif Lohar, which is one of his sons.
I do apologise.
So, no, it's okay. It's Arif Lohar. I don't know if he knows. I know some of the family members are aware of Gugi the play and have sort of been in touch. But I think for me, it's. I'm hoping Alam Lohar, somewhere in the spiritual realm. He passed away in 1979. I was born in 77, so I wasn't able to ever meet him or see him perform live. But I'm hoping in the spiritual realm somewhere he feels the love and he feels the kind of appreciation. I think he gave me something. He's the source, and his singing of the Saif al-Muluk is what connected me to that Sufi kalam. He brought that kalam to me and Mia Muhammad Baksh. If I wasn't to hear that, I wouldn't have found Saif al-Muluk. And I think it's sort of, in a way, my way of showing gratitude to him.
Yes, and you are definitely sharing his legacy and allowing it to inspire others as it inspired you. And that's what it's all about. It is about inspiration, isn't it? And evoking emotions and building these connections to spaces that we thought that we wouldn't have the connection with. You are now going to evoke some emotion and build some connections through your words. And for anybody that's just tuned in, you are listening to the Urban Cube. The time is 10:39, and I'm in the absolute blessed company of Kausar Mukhtar, who's joining us all the way from Bradford this morning. She's a theatre maker and she's also a poet. And right now we are going to be listening to her reciting some poetry on the Urban Cube. So I'm going to let you take over, Kausar, and please start off with the first one. Bismillah.
Yeah, thank you so much. I've recently been part of something called the Bahari Patwari Literature Project to get more people to write poetry in Bahari. There's very little poetry written in Bahari, and so that language again will die out if it's not heard and if it's not used. And so if anyone wants to look that up, the Pahari Patwari Literature Project on the Bradford 2025 website, and the new book will publish with poetry. So this is one of the new poems that I wrote in Pahari. And I wanted to write some romantic poetry. There's not a lot of romantic poetry. I've heard lots of people throughout my life saying that Pahari, or the language that my mother tongue is quite a harsh language, and Urdu is really sweet. And it's the way Urdu is the language you use to express emotion, not Pahari. So I wanted to write something quite romantic. So this is quite a short poem, but I really like this. It's one of my favorite poems that I've written. जिले तुसां कोल होने हो, जिले तुसां कोल होने हो, वक्त चोरा नालों तेज नसना है. जिले तुसां कोल होने हो, वक्त चोरा नालों तेज नसना है. जिले दूर होने हो, रस्सी नी गंढे हमारे दिले की कसना है. So that's my first poem in Pahari. I'm not sure if you understood that.
I did hear it. I was fascinated by the delivery and also the words. And for anybody listening in, would you like to maybe translate to the lyrics?
So jile tusa kol hone, when you are near me, waqt chora nalon tez nasna hai, time runs faster than a thief. Jile tusa dur hone ho, when you are far from me, mere rassi ni ganda hai hamare dile ki kasna hai, it tightens around my heart like a knot in a rope. So
wow.
Yeah.
And it's a very small couplet. So is that what you do? Do you do small ones? And
I do mostly short. So I'm perfect for the TikTok and new social media generation. I was always hypercritical of myself growing up that most of my poetry is quite short, and now it just seems apt for the time. So that's quite
fabulous. And this is part of the Pahari
Patwari Literature Project.
Literature Project. And how's that been received? And
that's been really positive.
Wow.
It's been amazing. We had 10 poets writing new poetry. So it has been amazing. It's been really good. And I'd really recommend people. There is a book that people can purchase called Apni Zuban. So I can provide some links for you to maybe put on the social media. So I can do
would
that.
Love that. I think this is really exciting, and it's definitely up my street. I love poetry, and I'm somebody that also writes multilingual pieces too.
Fantastic.
So this is just amazing to hear. And what has the take up been like? How many people have been engaged or performed? Is it growing?
I think there's 10 poets. There was 10 poets that were involved in the project. The book's been published. The launch event had a couple of hundred people there. So it's had really good engagement, amazing engagement. It's been building for a while. We've been having an annual Bahari Mushaira run by a poetess called Nabila in Bradford, which has been amazing. So yeah, it's been really a positive experience and encouraging. Even though I am of Azad Kashmir and Pahari is my mother tongue, my poetry has mostly been in Urdu and Punjabi up until really recently, because that's a language I've heard and grown up with. So I've naturally written in the language that I've heard all my life. And this has actually been quite a challenge for me to switch and to actually write in the language that I speak in at home. So that's been amazing. So it's been really, really positive. Are you okay for me to do my next few poems?
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Please go ahead.
So I've written another poem, and my Urdu is, when I say speak Urdu, it's like obviously very basic level Urdu, not the kind of born in Pakistan, educated in Pakistan Urdu. So I'm hoping the audience will still accept that it's Urdu. बात अगर जाहिर हो गई, बात अगर जाहिर हो गई, बदनामी और नुकसान सब मेरा है. बात अगर जाहिर हो गई, बदनामी और नुकसान सब मेरा है. छुप छुप के मिलने का मशवरा हमेशा तेरा है. So would you like me to translate
that was beautiful. I really like that. Vava. Is that what I say? What do you say?
Yeah. That is usually what people say. So
could you repeat that? I want you to repeat this piece again, because it was lovely. I really like this piece. Go ahead.
बात अगर जाहिर हो गई, बात अगर जाहिर हो गई, बदनामी और नुकसान सब मेरा है. छुप छुप के मिलने का मशवरा हमेशा तेरा है. So this is I write a lot of poetry. I'm an older female, and I want to write poetry that expresses the real female experience of Muslim Pakistani women, South Asian women. And this is one of the experiences of women from the South Asian and subcontinent, that she's saying that if the matter of this relationship, this romantic relationship between her and a gentleman obviously becomes open to the public and known, all of the sort of disreputation and humiliation and the kind of drawbacks from it, the negative impact, will be on her alone. Yet it is always by his suggestion that they meet in secret. And this is sort of looking at kind of some of the double standards. I write a lot of poetry that is quite real, and I think that's really important. The whole point of poetry is to shed a light on things that are not being discussed, things that are known but never spoken of, and to challenge the status quo and to challenge views and to help people to grow their thinking and their minds.
Indeed. And on that note, we look forward to your third piece. Do you have another piece that you'd like to share?
Yes, I'm going to sort of sing this because it's a bit like it's the closest thing I've written to any Sufi kalam. I have written a longer piece in Punjabi, but I don't know if we've got time for that. But I'll read this shorter one that I've written. Dil de doe rukh ne sajna, dil de doe rukh ne sajna, tera kis wal mukh ve sajna. उसके प्यार की रब नू पाना, उसकी प्यार की रब नू पाना, जेरा जग लइए भुखा पाना. दिल दे दोए पासे सजना, दिल दे दोए पासे सजना, तेरी किस वल आसे सजना.
Another powerful piece. Would you be able to recite that? Because it's so that, and then translate that piece.
Dil de doe rukh ne sajna, which means the heart has two sides. It's referring to the sort of positioning of the heart. It has a front and it has a back. So dil de doe rukh ne sajna, tera kiswal mukh ve sajna. Which way are you facing? Which is, do you face God or do you face the world? It's a question about where your heart is attached. Uski pyar ki rab nu pana. How can you find either love or God, which I think are synonymous with each other? That is the Sufi, that God is a synonym, love is a synonym of God on this earth. It's one way to connect. How can one ever even attain love or God that is only hungry for this world, that their only hunger and their thirst and desire is for this world? And the second line is sort of, the third line is the same as the first. Dil de roe paase, which means two sides. The heart has two sides. Dil de roe paase sajna. The heart has two sides. Teri kiswal aase sajna. Where have you pinned your hopes, and where is your attention?
Another beautiful piece, performed and spoken so eloquently by Kausar Mukhtar on the Urban Cube show this morning. It's not something we were expecting, and it's been an absolute delight and a treat to hear you perform, not just in English, but we haven't had an English one yet.
I was going to say I've got an English one.
English one as well. So we've had Urdu, we've had Pahari, we've had Punjabi, and now we've got an English piece.
One. Yeah, and again, it's quite short. So you built your castles. You built your castles on our graves. You built your castles on our graves. You built your fortunes on the backs of slaves. You call yourselves civilized men. You call yourselves civilized men. You aren't now, and you weren't then.
Wow. That's quite a poignant piece as well. And the inspiration behind this piece, Kausar?
I think it was just seeing a very amazing building built in the UK. We know many of the amazing buildings built in the UK were built on the slave trade, but we also know that much of the Western world and its current financial wealth and power is built on slavery, exploitation, dispossession of people from their lands, theft, and yet this is all sort of covered with a layer of civilization and education and politeness and properness. So it was trying to describe that.
And And it's interesting, each of your pieces have so many different tones to them. You've got love, you've got faith, you've got the story of women and their expression, and also something very social, political here as well. So what is your favorite topic to perform in?
I would say it's partly the love and the women tied together in a sense. I think there is a huge kind of, I think particularly from a Muslim faith background, there is a huge struggle about love, and then trying to kind of mixing that with other things that make it always something that is low and sinful, and there's no division kind of between that. And I think there's a huge amount of kind of unspoken about things with the experience of love, and generally that topic. I won't say anything else, but I think that I like to challenge a lot of concepts around women and the female Muslim experience in all aspects of life, and to try and be more real and try and challenge some of the kind of narrative around women and women in Islam and their bodies and who they are and what they represent, which comes which I think is really important. I think the strong messages of women as temptation, women as fitna, women as the food of hell is a really big thing for me as a Muslim woman. So I really like to I think it's really important that I challenge some of that, because it's not true and it's a misrepresentation of God and the Prophet for me personally. And I find that it's really a duty for a poet. And I think poetry, again, is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and a tool of communication, and he'd want you to use it for something meaningful.
Indeed. Are you giving us a bit of a snippet of maybe potential work that you're going to be creating?
Inshallah, whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me tawfiq for, and I think whatever he thinks is the best use of the limited time that we have on this earth.
You speak with so much passion and conviction, and it feels like faith is very central in your life. How has that impacted your work and your journey?
I think I think it's a relationship that's grown. I think my faith has always been a really strong part of my life, but it's changed its appearance and it's changed its presence in my life as I've grown and I've learned more. And I think relationship with God should be and yourself should be an evolving one, because there's always so much to learn. The time that we have on this earth is nowhere near enough to know God, because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's vastness and perfection. It's just such a small amount of time to try and understand or even know a little amount.
Indeed, and every day is just always full of surprises and understanding and learning and growing. Kausar, tell us about your social media handles. I'm sure there's lots of people listening in that might want to connect with you, especially the Kube, where they can go and see that, and also the Bahari Patwari literature group as well, please.
So Kube has a Facebook page, KHOOGHI has its own Facebook page and a sort of a YouTube channel with a few videos on there. I obviously have a Facebook page, which is my own, Kausar Mukhtar, spelled Kausar, Mukhtar, Mukhtar. I don't have a lot of other social media handles, and I was telling you, I'm sure from the grey hair, everyone can sort of estimate my age. So I need to get on Instagram and TikTok. And I've been saying that for a couple of years. Anyone who knows me is going to be like, she's been saying that for the last 2-3 years. And I'm going to hopefully get one of my daughters to help me get onto social media so I can put a bit more kind of poetry out there. I don't share a huge amount of what I do. So I would relate that. And the Bahari Patwari Literature Project is on, if you Google that, should come up on the Bradford 2025 website. I'll send you a link to the books if people want to buy the Bahari Patwari book and want to share that and read that poetry. So they can do that. And it would be it's just so great if more people could hear Bahari poetry, and I hope it'll inspire your listeners to write in Bahari, and it'd be
Definitely.
great to anyone who wants to send me anything in Bahari that they've written or connect with me who is into poetry, or anyone who wants Kugi to come to their kind of local community, that would be great, because I'm planning hopefully future tours in the next couple of years, because I work as well, so it's really hard to tour all the time. So I have to sort of plan where I'm going and do some sort of short tours. It'd be really good if I could have local communities who can sort of support me, welcome me into their communities, and I can definitely bring the workshops and Kugi to them.
I think we would absolutely love it in Luton, and inshallah, I hope it happens as well. Thank you so much, Kausar, for joining us today. It's been an absolute treat. And we are now headed to the end of the show, but I'm sure it's not going to be the last time I'm going to be hearing from you. And congratulations with the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Shazam. It's been really nice. Let me remind me of your name again, because I'm going to... Shemiza.
No worries.
The wrong way. Thank you so much. It's been really lovely, and thank you for helping me sort of share the story of Kugi with your audience.
Amazing. Thank you. Take care. It's the end of the show.
Coming up
Assalamu
next,
alaikum.
Awaz-e Haq with Hafiz Ijaz.